Thank you for joining us for another episode of Attribution Nation. In this series that we're in right now, we're stepping into the C-suite to hear directly from CMOs navigating today's most complex marketing challenges. From AI disruption and the age-old alignment battles with sales, we're unpacking the real reporting and data problems that leaders are solving for today, and some of the ones that still keep them up at night that they haven't solved yet. So join us for some candid conversations that go well beyond metrics into the strategies, experiments, and lessons shaping the future of marketing leadership. And on today's episode, I am joined by Jessica Fewless, VP of Marketing and Partnerships at Inverta. And in this particular interview, we're going to talk a lot about how to measure success in account-based marketing as well as partner marketing. And we haven't touched on partner marketing at all in this series. So this is going to be a new kind of topic here. So Jessica, just real quick here, if you could maybe introduce yourself to the audience, tell us a little bit about, obviously we know you're VP of Marketing and Partnerships at Inverta, but like, what does that mean? What do you do? And also a little bit about kind of like your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, do we have an hour for my journey? Because, it's been long and winding, but thank you for the brief introduction, Drew. So as you mentioned, currently I head up all things marketing and partnerships at Inverta. So I really handle the entire brand to demand continuum here, of which partnerships is a very crucial part of it. Being a services agency, partnering with other services and technology partnerships is really crucial to our success and the growth of our business. And so the two make for a very nice combination. Prior to Inverta, I spent 7 years at Demandbase, which most people have probably heard of at this point. When I started there, most people had not heard of Demandbase. And I was really there during the rise of account-based marketing. So I believe, that's part of the reason that I think Drew has asked me on here is that, I was there starting in 2013 when ABM was not a household name. I left in 2020 when ABM was. And so, we'll talk a little bit about that evolution and really how actually post 2020, and really kind of in the last year, how my thoughts on ABM have really, really changed a little bit. And it might surprise you what I say.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that. So I mean, let's get in there. You spent a lot of time working in ABM. How do you personally define ABM today, and how has your perspective shifted over the years?
Yeah. So ABM goes back to its origins circa 2010-ish, with the folks at ITSMA. They started with the one-to-one ABM. It was really, it was the partner to strategic account selling on the marketing side, where it was one marketer would focus on, 1 to 3 accounts, build bespoke marketing plans for those accounts, work side by side with their sales counterparts and their sales teams to engage those accounts, go deep with them, really personalize the approach, and convert those, if they were prospects, into customers, or really help grow that share of wallet within existing customers. So that was really where ABM started. Circa 2013. So, 3 to 5 years later, the technology to be able to do quote unquote ABM at scale came on the scene, right? And that was the Demandbases and the Terminuses, and then eventually 6 Sense. And there was a bunch of others out there, which made the promise of being able to do ABM at scale, because one marketer to 3 accounts is not very scalable, right? So this technology was like, you can personalize at scale, and you can also start to get all these signals so you can look at a larger target account list and, really build, maybe in smaller clusters, or segments, but build marketing campaigns for those accounts. And that was what Demandbase built their business on from 2013 to 2020. And, we crafted an ABM certification, actually wrote a book on ABM, right? Talking about one-to-many. What was funny was at the time I would go over to the UK and speak about account-based marketing. And every time people would come up to me and go, well, aren't you just talking about good demand gen? right? This one-to-many ABM. Isn't this just good demand gen? And the fact of the matter was they weren't wrong. At the time, I was indignant, right? I was like, no, it's its own thing, right? But as time has progressed, as technology has progressed, as data has progressed, quite honestly, I feel like now in 2026, we can say that one-to-many ABM should be your demand gen strategy, right? That's the slightly shocking part here, right? Like, I would say we should get rid of one-to-many ABM. One-to-one is still a thing. That very bespoke strategic account marketing, it's great. But one-to-many ABM should just be your demand gen strategy. And, it's not that ABM one-to-many was a waste of time. It actually broke marketers of a lot of bad habits. So, in 2010, we got marketing automation. So we could email everybody everything. And content was king and blah, 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 right? And bad data, and we were tossing leads over the fence like they were going out of style to our sales team, and sales was like, cool, thanks for giving me more, but they're less quality, right? So now there was a mismatch. So ABM helped us focus on quality versus quantity, right? The right accounts that sales and marketing aligned on, right? Not trying to go after everybody, being more focused in our outreach and personalizing, campaigns and those sorts of things. So it taught us those disciplines that had kind of gotten lost in the broader demand gen that now we can just fold right into our demand gen strategies because we have the technology and the data to do it at that scale.
So you're telling me that demand gen shouldn't be just batch and blast an email to your entire database? Is that kind of, that's not good practice? What? I
think we've known it all along. But there was a little bit of, well, what can we do about it? But now today, with, like I said, the technology and data, and then, the magic word of AI, add that to things, like we can in fact do that at scale. Now, that's not to say demand gen should be doing ABM at scale to the entire, total addressable market. It's not what we're saying. ABM is based on the principle of having an ICP and building a target account list. Demand gen should be doing those things, right? And then everything falls from there. It's a much more efficient use of resources, budget, and it's going to convert at a higher rate if done well.
Zero disagreement here. That is what demand gen should be. I have heart palpitations every time I work with a client or hear of somebody that is, basically any interaction with marketing is justifying sending somebody over to sales. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, stop this. Please, for the love of Zeus, stop. Yes. You cannot keep doing this. No wonder your sales team hates you at this point. Unless your sales team actually proactively said, no, just send us everything, in which case, what are they doing? But yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Exactly. That is definitely a whole other podcast for sure. So it sounds like, from what you're saying about your new view of ABM, particularly around the one-to-many approach of ABM, that it sounds like, your organization is kind of moving away from, traditionally just tracking MQLs and focusing on MQLs. So how do you think about transitioning from MQLs over to really identifying when an account is actually ready for sales engagement?
Yeah. So, kind of going back to that, evolution. So 2010, we were looking at leads and even MQLs, right? Then enter account-based marketing. And then we started looking at accounts, right? And we as marketers felt like we were being a better partner to our sales counterparts because we're like, oh, we're bringing you a whole account, right? Not just this one person, but a whole account that's ready to buy from you. And sales was like, cool, but who? And we were like, well, go figure it out, right? You know who you want to sell to. So just but this account is ready. And that was yet again, it was one step forward, two steps forward, one step back, right? We were aligning around the right accounts with our sales counterparts, but we still weren't providing them what they needed, which was actual people. So advanced to, 2024, 2025, Forrester, Gartner, everybody started talking about buying groups, which was kind of that we over-rotated to accounts, and now it's coming back to the middle, which is look at the right accounts and understand the buying group within those accounts and market to them, right? And move them through the buyer's journey and hand over that entire buying committee to your sales reps. So now you've got the right account and you've got the people. And, now your sales team is armed and ready to go. That sounds simple in theory. That is complex kind of on the back end. I hate to tell everybody that, but it's not as simple as saying, okay, now we're doing marketing qualified accounts instead of marketing qualified leads. That is a simple kind of field in Salesforce at the end of the day, but you have to align on what is a marketing qualified account. You have to look at all the data and go, what makes for a qualified account, right? How many stakeholders do you need to have? How many need to be engaged, right? Those sorts of things. And all of that is happening on the marketing side before sales is even engaging with that account, right? And understanding, what are they engaging with? What are they looking at? How are you as marketers going to market differently now that you have a buying group versus just individuals, right? Because everybody's always talked about personalizing to different personas. So we get that, right? But that's kind of been the same throughout the buyer's journey. Now, yes, we need to personalize to different personas at the top of the funnel. But as you start getting to middle and bottom of funnel, you need to actually start bringing all those buying group members together to have consensus around a buying decision, which hopefully is your solution, right? So that is a new discipline that most marketers have skipped over.
Well, and let's also not forget that in any given account, you may not just have one buying account or buying group. You can have multiple buying groups within one account. If that account is large enough, if they've got like divisions or departments that operate independently and you can sell into multiple different departments, like that is a concept that I think a lot of folks don't really kind of understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think they understand it, but they don't actually put it into action, that you might have multiple buying groups even within one account. And it comes back to what you said earlier about share of wallet, because ABM is not about just generating a net new client. That is not what ABM is about. It's a part of it, but it's also maximizing the share of wallet within that account. So which requires land and expand, which means you have to understand how many different buying groups, potential buying groups you have in this organization. And that I think is something that most marketers and even a lot of like sales reps and account managers they don't pay attention to the fact or action on the fact that there's potentially multiple buying groups.
Yeah. And I think part of the problem is because of the way that marketing teams are set up, right? If you look at most marketing teams, there's kind of the corporate marketing team, right? And they're responsible for the thought leadership, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got the demand gen team who's responsible for just getting those pipeline opportunities. And then you typically have your customer marketing team who's, once somebody's a customer, okay, now let's make sure they're happy and help with that renewal and expansion on. That should be one continuum, one team. Today, it's a lot of handoffs. It's a lot of silos, right? And teams aren't talking to each other. Like when you think of a quote unquote demand gen campaign, it should start at whatever your segment is. And it should start at the top of the funnel all the way through to them being a customer. And it should be one contiguous stream, messaging, all that type of stuff, so that prospect, that customer has a consistent experience with your brand.
Yeah, it goes back to the old thing that I think when ABM first started coming around, we used to talk a lot about like, well, we're no longer doing handoffs between marketing and sales. We're doing handshakes. And it's that handshake that, hey, look, this is, we're both working this account from start to finish. We're not just going to hand you an MQL or an MQA and then marketing is going to be hands off. No, it's a handshake. We're going to work this together throughout the entire journey.
Yep. Yeah. But that, to the point of kind of your podcast, like that makes tracking all of that and measuring all of that more challenging. Right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way people are buying today, so much is happening in the background, in the shadows, if you will, to make it sound ominous. That how do you measure marketing's impact? I mean, the fact of the matter is, what most marketing teams do is they're trying to prove marketing's value. in the way that they measure and their dashboards and those sorts of things, because their CFO was constantly like, what's the ROI of this? What's the ROI of this? Right. And, marketers would do themselves a big service to get away from proving marketing's value to having dashboards that show them how to improve marketing's
Oh,
value.
absolutely. At 100% agree. But again, to your point, I think part of that problem though is CFOs, because every time I hear a marketer that's going, I need to prove the value of marketing, it's because a CFO is asking them for ROI. But even worse, and this I think is what complicates ABM reporting even worse, is a CFO wants to basically put a binary decision on an opportunity. A lot of CFOs do this. Is this a sales opportunity or is this a marketing opportunity?
Yeah.
Well, look, if we're doing ABM and marketing and sales are handshake, agreement all the way from, inception all the way to opportunity close one, it can't be either a marketing opportunity or a sales opportunity because we're collaborating together. And I get that CFOs need to do budgeting and you've got a sales budget and you've got a marketing budget. I get that, but that is in complete opposition of how ABM actually functions. You can't do that.
Well, and with more than 80% of the buyer's journey happening online, right? Like every and I've said this since 2013. Every deal is a sales and marketing, or every opportunity is a sales and marketing opportunity. Like it's the rare case that an SDR picks up the phone and calls somebody who's never heard of your company, engaged with your brand, right? And says, yes, I'll take a meeting. It's the rare exception, right? For the most part, and especially in today's world, because so much of the buyer's journey is happening digitally, that if an SDR picks up the phone and gets a meeting, let's look back at all the touches that marketing had to get to that point. If you want to talk about source, that was a marketing source lead. The SDR just happened to call on the right day. I mean, not to undervalue the role of SDRs and sales and stuff like that, but once again, it's a partnership. And if marketing isn't marketing the right things and painting your company in the right light, the SDR is never going to get that meeting.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm firmly of the mindset that there can be sales only opportunities, but they're extremely rare and they're usually relationship based, where it's like, I happen to meet the person sitting next to me on a flight and we're talking together for 4 hours and suddenly they become a deal. Yeah. Cool. That's a sales only deal. Or my brother happens to be the VP of this firm and he called me and he's going to buy from us, right? Like that's a sales only deal. It's relationship based. But particularly with ABM, 99.9% of your deals are both marketing and sales deals. It's just, you cannot create this binary differentiation. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, are we hitting our pipeline and revenue number or are we not? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the collective we. Are we doing it or are we not? Right? End of discussion. Right? And then we can get into once again, how do you improve? Can we increase velocity? Can we increase close rates? Right? Those sorts of things. And once again, that's another we conversation.
Yep.
Because it's not like marketing stops marketing to an account just because it became an opportunity. They continue to market. And so marketing and sales have to be in lockstep to make sure that marketing is marketing what sales is trying to sell.
Well, and not only that, and this is one of the things that I think I love the most about reporting to do better marketing is loss analysis. So when you do loss analysis, you figure out why you're losing deals, right? And both marketing and sales can be responsible for overcoming those objections. So if we lose the budget, we know the next time around with this client or this particular account, one, marketing has to, surface content that, overcomes the budget objection. Yep. Two, the next time it comes around with sales has to also, be on that same message and be able to articulate why, budget shouldn't be a concern. So it's absolutely joint marketing and sales. That the organizations that do this best, they're working hand in glove to overcome objections and make sure that we're selling the right things and to the right people.
Absolutely.
So how do you particularly measure ABM performance? And particularly, what are some of the leading indicators that you look at before pipeline or revenue start to show up? Because we know that can take, depending on who you're selling into, that could take months or a year for
Yeah.
pipeline or revenue to show up. So how do you look at like some of those leading indicators?
Yeah. I mean, obviously those are, there's kind of the classics, pipeline tracking, revenue tracking, velocity close rates, and ACV are kind of the ultimate, like tracking those are, okay, is the team successful or not? Right. But then to your point about leading indicators, there's a lot of different things that, you can look at. And, some of that is going to be from the account perspective, right? Is this account moving forward in their buyer's journey? And once again, it's not just the account, but it's the buying group within that account, right? Are you filling out more of that buying group? Are more of those members engaging with your brand, right? Are they showing intent? Are they coming to your website? Those sorts of things. Being able to kind of build out that dossier for a number of different accounts or kind of your target account list is going to be really crucial to see, okay, from a marketing perspective, are we doing our part, right? So those are some of the leading indicators. And, nobody buys from a company without coming to their website. My favorite, once we were able to identify website traffic, like I said, back in like 2013, right? Favorite was going to a pipeline review and going, that's really interesting that you think that account is going to buy from us because nobody's been on our website in the last 30 days. Like, they're not just taking your word for it and going to buy from you, right? Like you gotta, or there's other leading factors. Like if you see intent continuing to go up, but your website traffic drop off, that means you're out of the running, or it might mean that you're out of the running, right? Like these are kind of red flags that you should be keeping an eye on. But, right now, what we're developing with our clients is really getting to that. How can you take a look at your target account list and how are you doing from a buying group and account engagement perspective and building out that dashboard, right? How, and like literally it's red, yellow, green of your, let's say you have 100 accounts on your target account list, 30 of them are green. That means you have enough buying group members, the right percentage of them are engaging with your brand, right? And so on and so forth. And then yellow is like, well, either you don't have enough buying group members or you have them all, but they're not engaging. And then red is kind of the old cold, dead and hostile. They're on your target account list, but there's no signs of life here, right? And so then marketers can go, okay, for the green, not that we're like our job is done here, but like we can kind of put them in maintenance mode. The ones that are yellow, we either have to figure out how to go get more buying group members or engage the ones that we have. Right. And so that is now a new game for marketers to play and think about when developing their campaigns and their strategies for hitting those pipeline targets. So that's kind of the new dashboard versus like how many people came to our webinar. Right. And I've been saying this for over a decade. It's like, who cares how many people signed up for your webinar? How many signed up that are on your target account list? Right. Did you get multiples of the buying group to come to that webinar? These are the types of things you should be looking at now versus pure volume and numbers.
Now, as we've kind of already alluded to, obviously, deals take time and everybody wants instant gratification. We want to see the ROI on something 3 days after the campaign launches, right? How do you balance the need for measurement and accountability against the fact that like we've got long time cycles and deal cycles and it seems like deal cycles are getting longer and longer every damn day. So how do you balance that need for the measurement versus those long timelines?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a matter of how you segment and how you communicate the purpose of each and every campaign that you do, right? So yes, you've got a target account list, right? And you want to turn so many of those target account list members into pipeline over the course of the year and then a percentage of those into revenue. Got it. Well, not all accounts on your target account list are created equal. Like I said, some, that red, yellow, green. Some are going to be, you're going to have multiple stakeholders and they're going to be engaged. Others are going to be a little bit like, they're kind of engaged or they're showing intent, but they haven't really engaged with your brand. And then there's the others that are cold, dead, and hostile. The ones that are cold, dead, and hostile, those are the ones that you got to play the long game with, right? You're starting at top of funnel with them. You're feeding them your thought leadership. Top of funnel is more that vibe marketing, just trying to get yourself noticed, right? As you move down the funnel, you're trying to provide value. So it's like the vibe marketing at the top of the funnel, value marketing kind of middle and bottom, right? That really shows the value of your organization and how they're going to make, your prospect or customer more successful. And so, like I said, the ones that are green, those should convert to pipeline faster than the ones that are yellow, right? So making sure that you have campaigns targeted at each of those different segments so that you can say, hey, of this list of, we've got a full target account list of 100 accounts. These 30 are green. So I would expect of these 30, 10 of them to convert to pipelining in the first half of the year, the first quarter, right? Once again, I'm throwing numbers out there, but this is going to be based on your historical data, right? It's understanding, okay, because that's how you decided that an account was green, because you went back and looked and said, okay, when an account has these characteristics, they have a higher likelihood to close, right? So that's how you've delineated what an MQA looks like and those sorts of things. So it's making sure, though, because a lot of people will be like, okay, we're doing a campaign. Here's our Q1 campaign, and it's on this topic, and we're going to send it to everybody. Probably not the right approach, to your point, when you need to be filling the pipeline throughout the year, right? That top of funnel, Q1 campaign is great, but do you have a middle and a bottom of a funnel approaches and tactics, right? To accounts that are in different levels of maturity with your organization. That is what I think a lot of marketing teams miss. And so to your point about the long game, but also the short game, that's how you have to be balancing that in kind of every campaign or every activation a marketing team does.
Well, and it sounds like, a something that you could do to help kind of mitigate these long time cycles is, it sounds like you could probably do some kind of benchmarking with like, hey, how are we converting target accounts from red to yellow and yellow to green? Because obviously, those are predictors of potential future pipeline. If we're moving people in the right direction in the red, yellow, green, hey, that's a really good positive indicator. Pipeline and revenue are going to take, particularly for the ones that were started out as red, that's going to take a lot of time. But look, we just moved them from red to yellow. That's progress. Let's
exactly.
be patient. Let's get them from yellow to green, and then we can start looking for the more traditional things like pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, great things to share, for progress is like, hey, month over month, here's the net new accounts from our target account list that have showed up on our website, or net new accounts that have had some sort of, even if they haven't moved from red to yellow or yellow to green, like there's movement, right? They're trending in the right direction, right? And being able to show that movement is super critical. Like you said, with the longer and longer kind of, in the shadows buying journey, that's really, really crucial. I mean, one example of that kind of the dark funnel, people have called it, is, and this just happened this week. I wrote a blog post last week, and somebody forwarded it on, which happens. I mean, people see blogs and they're like, oh, this was an interesting perspective or whatever. So, you expect that happens. But then I also was running an outbound campaign, and it happened to go to a woman on our target account list who said, hey, somebody just forwarded me your article from last week. How in God's green earth could I have ever tracked that? I happened to get that information anecdotally, right? But there is no way to track that in a dashboard, that this article got passed around to, 300 people, and the timing just happened to be, that it was like, oh, I was just talking with, another member of my team about moving to MQLs, and your email said MQLs, and your article talked about the evolution of marketing, that we are now at the MQA phase, right? Well, how do you track that? So that's why, that true like attribution of like last touch, blah, blah. you just can't do it because it all snowballs, right? Until you
Yeah.
get those hits, until you get those engagements, and until you get somebody who's like, yes, give me a call.
Well, and that's the whole thing with any kind of marketing measurement has flaws because of that particular use case, right? Like I don't care if it's incrementality testing or media mix modeling, none of those are going to pick up on the fact that somebody was forwarded a blog by somebody else and that was the catalyst that started their buying journey. Or it could be one of a million different things, but like
Right.
there's no way to get that from a traditional marketing measurement. The only way to get that is to speak to your buyers. That's it, because it's all anecdotal. So yeah, you're kind of stuck. It's not that you're kind of stuck. It's that there's certain things that, and I think that this is really difficult to get like a CFO or a CEO to understand this and say, okay, and agree to it. But there are certain things that are unknowable in a marketing buying journey. Like we can't track every single thing that happens.
No.
We cannot track that a conversation between two friends happened at a bar where our brand was mentioned and that was the catalyst. You cannot do that. There's certain things that are unknowable. And I think that conversation is really tough for people to wrap their heads around, because everybody thinks like, no, we got to know everything. It has to be 100% accurate. It's like, no, It will never be 100% accurate. Never.
Well, and that's why either your CFO needs to sit on some sales calls, because some of this stuff comes up during sales calls. Oh yeah, well, I read your article or I saw your piece on blah, 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 right? It comes up. So like mining gong recordings for accounts that have it, or whatever recorder you have, mining those from marketing mentions, it seems somewhat annoying. But once again, it's important. I have seen CROs who didn't believe it until they heard it themselves. And they're like, our inbound has dried up. It's like, yeah, because that's not how this operates anymore. Right? They reach out, when they're ready. And so, yes, outbound has gone down. But for the most organizations, their conversion rate on outbound has gone through the roof, because people only reach out when they're ready to talk to you. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but, I know a number of our clients, they're like, yeah, finally my CRO gets it, because he listened to a recording or set of recordings. Right. And then one of my clients actually put together a greatest hits. They were like, in the last month, here is the 3-minute, greatest hits of all the times marketing was mentioned during a sales call. And that sort of stuff. It just, we trained the board and the e-staff on MQLs. They're like hooked on the MQL crack.
Yep.
And it take time to get them off it.
Yeah. So let's switch gears over to partner marketing, because this is one we have not touched on at all in Attribution Nation. Measurement with partner marketing can get really tricky. It can, in some cases, it can be really, really easy and, concrete. And other times it can be really, really tricky. So how do you structure measurement around partner impact and, making sure that we're talking, we're not falling into the trap of last touch attribution and all this stuff, but like, how are you thinking about measuring partner impact?
Yeah. So this one is another toughie. And, honestly, most organizations just, if you ever look, typically the head of partnerships turns over almost more frequently than a CMO does, and CMOs turn over every 18 months, right? And it's because proving the value of partnerships is like proving the value of marketing. So much happens behind the scenes, right? One of your partners is in talking to their customer, and they mention, in our case, a services firm, they mention, Inverta, and then that client calls us. How do you track that? Except for, they might say on the first call, oh yeah, well, no, I was talking to, the folks at Intensify, and they said to call you because we were having trouble figuring out our nurture. Okay. Right. But, I think for most teams, most companies will do a direct, and they'll do, an influenced, and the direct is fine, but typically that's when a sales rep calls another sales rep, and says, hey, I want to bring you in an account. And then you get direct sourced attribution for that. Everything else is influenced. So any co-marketing you do is always seen as influenced. The problem is most companies only value the sourced. They don't think about the value of the influenced. Right. And the influenced is honestly just as important. When you do a joint campaign together, right, you're putting a better together message out there. You're talking about, if it's a services firm and a tech firm, the strategy and everything that the services firm brings with the technology, right? And, that leads to opportunities, right? And most companies will not recognize that. They'll just be like, cool, so you get some money from our partners to do some joint marketing so you could expand your marketing budget. Cool, way to go. That's how they value partner marketing. And, they should be tracking things like, did you get net new names in your database because of that activation, right? Did you engage a buying group member that you hadn't engaged before because of that activation with your partner, right? Those sorts of things are very real because on your own, you wouldn't have gotten that, but with the partner you did. And so sometimes it's just mining their database. And sometimes it's actually that better together, that story that gets somebody finally off the fence and says, all right, great. As long as I've got a tech partner, a services partner that can show me how to use this technology and the tech partner, right? Okay, now I'm ready to take the leap and make the purchase. But once again, hard to track.
Yeah, it is. And I think that being in the services industry as well, it's not only that you see, direct sales coming from partner, which is, or influence sales coming, with partners. And that's incredibly difficult to track. You also have things like partners helping renewals, right? Because
tell me about it.
In the services world, we prevent people from churning off of software platforms all the time.
All the time.
And so how do you track that a partner came in and rescued an account that was at risk, and track the ROI on that? It's really tricky.
It is. And I feel like as a services firm, we're constantly having to defend that. Right. And it was with one of our partners who we've been a partner with since before my time at Inverta. So close to 10 years. In that 10 years, we have lost one customer for that tech vendor. We have renewed dozens and dozens of them, helped them renew and expand. Right. But they don't pay anything on expansion or renewal. It's only on sourced. And so they're like, so then the leadership's like, what has Inverta done for me lately? And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, if you only track X, then not a lot. But if you track the entire rest of the alphabet, A through, everything other than X, we've done a ton. So,
yep.
Yeah. That's one of the trickiest things about partner marketing and measuring those is just because it's not just the sourcing. There's all sorts of stuff. There's co-selling, there's co-marketing, there's, renewals and rescues. And there's just so much stuff that it's difficult.
Yeah.
But I think part of the problem though is that most organizations think of partner marketing as a referral program only. And it's not. Partnerships go a lot further beyond that.
So much further. Or they think of partners as a piggy bank.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We want to do this thing at a trade show, but we need 3 other partners to help split the bill. That's how they think of partnerships. Nothing else about that, has any impact. It never shows up in a dashboard except that the partner marketer. I've literally seen partner marketers who their variable comp is based on how much in sponsorship dollars they bring in, which is
I've seen that.
So short-sighted. Sure, that can be a component of it. If you have your own conference and you've got to help defray some of the costs, yes, okay, charge your partners. But also all partners aren't created equal in all things. The value they bring to your organization and how big they are. My favorite is when these bigger tech partners are there's no differential between services partners and tech partners as far as sponsorships go. So it's I'm never I don't have, I don't think my annual budget is big enough to be a like platinum sponsor
Right.
of most, right? And they're like, well, but the tech partners can pay it. I'm like, cool. Do you see value in your customers having access to agency partners as well? Then you might want to think about that,
Right.
right? You know,
Yeah.
is there value in having your agency partners there in addition to other tech partners? And if
Yeah.
so, then you got to adjust your approach.
Absolutely. I mean, we're a bronze partner of Adobe. Um, we're tiny. We are probably, if not the tiniest bronze partner of Adobe, we're like almost the tiniest, if
Yeah.
we're not the tiniest.
Yeah.
We can't afford to go be, a big sponsor at Adobe Summit.
No,
We can't.
no.
But I can tell you that we've helped Adobe close a lot of deals and
Yeah.
renew a lot of deals despite
Mhm.
our size.
Right.
So, you know, granted, we're talking about a behemoth in Adobe and a little tiny company in Attributa, but like, it's yeah, you can't just cater to the largest partners, because the largest partners are great, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the only ones driving value.
Well, and that's where it goes back to really understanding the value each of your partners brings to your business, right? Some of them are going to be, that co-selling. They've got that motion down, and that's going to be their value. Others, it's going to be renewals and expansion, right? And then there's others still who you just want to attach your name to their logo, to their brand, because their brand's got a lot of cachet, right? So
Yeah.
they're not great at co-marketing. They're not great at co-selling. But if we can do a few things that just attach our logo, like that's going to look good on us, right? Understanding those tiers, and then how you engage those partners and how you value the contribution they're making needs to be
Yep.
tailor made to that. And I would say 95% of organizations don't bother with that.
Oh, totally agree. Yeah. Easily 95%. Easily.
I'm hoping there's some gold stars out there, but I haven't found them yet.
There's a few, I think. I think there's a few, but certainly they're not in the majority. Yeah. You gotta really hunt for them. We probably have already answered some of this, but what are some of the common mistakes you see organizations make when they're trying to evaluate or scale marketing partner marketing programs?
Once again, I think it goes back to the not recognizing the value of different types of partners. I think that's the big thing, because as soon as they start to scale, they're like, great, here's our partner program. My favorite was one of my partners came to me with entitlements. I got entitlements as a certain level of partner, right? And I could write a blog post for them, and they would let me, co-sponsor a webinar that they produced, but I could co-sponsor, right? Like it was, I would have the opportunity to sponsor their conference. I'm like, what? Like it was just so, it was so
I have to pay a
formal.
fee to pay another fee.
Right. Yes. And so it was just, and once again, the way they did their tiering was based on sourced, not
Mhm.
influenced, or or renewals or expansion. So we were never going to be a top tier partner because we were just never going to source that many deals for them.
I'm wondering if I know which partner you're talking about.
I'm sure there's not only one that behaved like this, but sadly, but
No, we'll exchange notes after the podcast episode here and see. I have a sneaky suspicion I might know who you're talking about, because I've experienced the same thing where we were. So this actually goes back to before I started Attributa. I was working at it was basically running a RevOps department for demand gen agency, and we were partners with this particular organization. And the thing is we weren't sourcing deals for them. What we were doing is we had, a certain percentage of their clients under our management, and we're making sure that they were doing things properly and getting value out of those tools, and mostly, making sure that they're renewing and expanding and doing all those stuff. But this partner only cared about sourcing. And so, we were like, hey, we'd love to get our CEO at your annual user conference to talk about, paid media and SEO strategies. And like, because we're really good at this. Like this agency was really good. And they were like, we would love to have you there. We just got to get your partner level up to this level. And then you'd have the ability to be a speaker. And we're like, we're never going to, we're not in the business of generating business for you. So we're never going to get there. So you don't want somebody who would be a really, really damn good speaker at your conference because we haven't generated enough money for you.
Right. Right. I mean, this is, I feel like we could talk about this forever. I think the other thing that kills me is that so few, now I'm going to get onto the marketing side because I've been in partner marketing since circa 2008. So I've seen a lot, and to say the least. And, I think most companies hire partner marketers. Most of those partner marketers, and I hate to say it, and I used to joke around with my old CMO, that most partner marketers are failed demand gen marketers. They couldn't hack it in demand gen, and so they went to partner marketing. I know. It's awful of me to say, but having done partner marketing as long as I have, because here's the thing, if they were truly demand gen marketers that just had an affinity for partners, right? And if the organization had partner marketing as part of their overall demand gen strategy, a lot of what we're talking about wouldn't be an issue, right? Because they would see the value of partnerships for their overall demand gen strategy, right? And a lot of this would go away because now partner activities would be measured like the rest of your demand gen is, right? And it would have, forget about the sourced kind of on the sales side of things. That's a separate, but on the marketing side, a lot of this would go away if you truly had like killer demand gen professionals that ran your partner marketing. And if, oh, by the way, they actually sat in marketing, because I would say half the companies I talk to, partner marketing sits on the biz dev team, which means they're not integrated into the market. The CMO doesn't care because it's not integrated into her or his organization. It's not part of his or her goals and objectives, right? And so that partner marketer has no access to the shared resources of a broader marketing team, right? So they're set up to fail sitting over there in general, right? So I guess there were more mistakes I had to talk about.
I would definitely agree with that one. That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jessica, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. This has been fantastic. And I definitely do want to sync up with you afterwards to see if we're talking about the same partner. But we're going to do our quick key takeaways, which we always do at the end of these. So some of the things that I think we heard here that were really interesting that I want to just call out is, number one, I think most people know this, but it's good to just reiterate it. Demand gen shouldn't be just blasting out to your whole database. We've moved beyond this. The tech, the data, AI, we can now be just so much smarter at scale than pushing out something to the entire database. If you're thinking about pushing something out to the entire database, just know you're thinking about it wrong. Handing over full buying committees to sales reps so that they're armed and ready to go, as opposed to just saying, hey, we got an MQA here, go figure out who the buying group is. It's a lot better for marketing and sales to have that buying group defined before we get to the stage of an MQA. And oh, by the way, you might have multiple buying groups within one account. So it's good to identify the different buying groups. Marketers need to move away from proving value. And instead of proving value, we need to more about focusing on how to improve the value of marketing. We need to do better at getting better at marketing. And ultimately what this does is this kind of helps shift the conversation from that binary decision between, is this a sales opportunity or is this a marketing opportunity? Because we're not doing that. We're just focused on getting better at marketing. Deal cycles are getting longer every day. And quite frankly, in order to account for that in our evaluation, we have to make sure that we're communicating the purpose of each and every campaign we do. Some impact is immediate. Some takes a lot more time to grow. And I bring this back to the conversation about your account kind of engagement is like a red, yellow, green. Campaigns that are targeting green accounts are going to have a lot more immediate impact on pipeline and revenue than campaigns that are targeting red accounts. Those need to get entirely different marketing campaigns that serve a different purpose than the ones that are trying to get the green folks to an opportunity or to closed won. And then ultimately, the last one on here is proving the value of partnerships is unfortunately a lot like proving the value of marketing. It's really difficult to do sometimes. And a lot of times you have to actually listen into calls and mine things like gong recordings to get marketing mentions where we can actually get some additional information about that dark funnel that impacts both regular marketing and partner marketing. So yeah, well, it's not easy to track partner marketing.
Nope, it's not. But and we're still out here fighting the good fight. We're still trying to do it. I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense to add partnerships and partner marketing to your overall demand gen strategy. And I think it makes sense to have your overall demand gen strategy be account focused.
Absolutely. One quick thing I'm going to do is just a quick shout out to a couple of people that I think are doing partnerships like really well.
Yep.
Jason Yarborough and Arcadia. Very good at partnerships. Asher Matthew, I can't remember where he's at right now, but he is very, very good at partnerships. I love the way that Chili Piper approaches partnerships. They do a great job over there. So just some shout outs to people that I think are doing it well.
Love it. We gotta give the gold stars where they're deserved.
Absolutely. I celebrate successes along with learning from failures, right? You got to actually celebrate those successes. Well, Jessica, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining. And for our listeners, like, share so that we can, get better attribution, share these episodes
we
out.
We won't know that you shared, but please share anyway.
Yes, exactly. We won't know, but still do it. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And again, Jessica, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.